Here's part one of your story in approximately 800 words, written in simple English with a third-person perspective. The spaceship floated silently above Earth. Inside, Captain Sunho stared at the blue planet with disgust. His long fingers tapped on the control panel as he adjusted his pristine white uniform. "Such a dirty world," he said to his crew. The Valari had been watching humans for months. They saw how humans sweated, how they ate messy foods, how they lived with animals in their homes. To the Valari, who prized cleanliness above all, humans were little better than animals. "Prepare the landing team," Sunho ordered. "Remember your training. Do not touch anything. Do not remove your suits." First Officer Minji nodded, her silver eyes narrowing. "Is contact really necessary? The reports show these creatures have diseases everywhere." "The High Council demands it," Sunho replied. "We need their mining rights, but we will make it quick." On Earth at Outpost Delta, Dr. Taeyong was having a quiet evening. The small research station sat on a remote mountain, far from any city. Taeyong enjoyed the peace. At 45, with gray starting to show in his black hair, he had seen enough excitement in his career. He was checking plant samples when the alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the lab. "What now?" he muttered, putting down his tools. He hurried to the control room where his assistant Gina was staring at the screen. "Sir, you need to see this," she said, pointing upward. On the monitor, a ship unlike any human vessel approached the station. It was smooth, white, and shaped like a teardrop. No human had built something so perfect. "Aliens," Taeyong whispered. "Real aliens." After 20 years studying possible alien biology, here they were. The communications panel lit up. A message appeared in perfect English. "We are Valari, we will land, prepare for meeting." Gina looked at Taeyong with wide eyes. "What do we do?" Taeyong straightened his lab coat. "We welcome them, of course." Station Commander Donghun burst into the room. "The military is 3 hours away, we need to stall them." "No," Taeyong said firmly. "This is a chance for peaceful contact. I'll meet them." "You?" Donghun laughed. "No offense, Doctor, but you're just a scientist." "Exactly," Taeyong replied. "Science is universal, it's our best chance." Outside, the air hummed as the alien ship landed in the clearing next to the station. Its surface glowed softly in the twilight. A door opened without a sound. 3 tall figures stepped out. They wore white suits that covered them completely. Their helmets showed only a reflection of the humans watching them. Taeyong stepped forward, hands open to show he carried nothing. "Welcome to Earth, I am Dr. Taeyong." The tallest Valari tilted its head. When it spoke, the voice came through a translator. "We are Valari. I am Captain Sunho. We request entry to discuss resources." Taeyong nodded and led them to the airlock. Inside, the Valari moved carefully, touching nothing, standing away from the humans. In the meeting room, Taeyong noticed how the aliens seemed to flinch when humans came close. Their body language showed clear disgust. "Would you like to remove your suits?" Taeyong asked. "Our air is safe." "No," Captain Sunho said quickly. "Your world has 10,000 times more bacteria than ours. Your bodies leak fluids constantly. You are..." He paused. "Not clean." Taeyong smiled gently. "I understand your concern. But what you see as dirty is actually part of our strength. Our immune systems are remarkable." Suddenly the station shook, lights flickered, an explosion sounded from the east wing. "Lab 4, Gina cried out. "The pressure experiment." Before anyone could move, emergency doors slammed shut. The computer announced, "Containment breach detected, station sealed, emergency power active." Taeyong checked the system. "We're locked down. The computer has isolated us to prevent contamination." Captain Sunho turned to his crew, speaking rapidly in their language. Their calm demeanor had vanished. They backed away from the humans. "What is happening?" Sunho demanded. "A simple containment procedure," Taeyong explained. "Nothing to worry about. We just need to..." A hissing sound interrupted him. The Valari looked down in horror. Their environmental suits were losing pressure. Small tears had appeared during the explosion. "Our protection," First Officer Minji cried. "We will be exposed!" The third Valari science officer Hyuk fell to his knees. "We are contaminated." Taeyong stayed calm. "You're not in danger. Let me help you." "No." Sunho backed away. "Do not touch us." But it was too late. The damage was done. For the first time, in Valari history they would face direct contact with another species, and Taeyong knew this was just the beginning. The Valari stood frozen in the sealed room, their environmental suits compromised. Captain Sunho's breathing came fast and shallow through his damaged helmet. First Officer Minji and Science Officer Hyuk huddled together in the corner, as far from Dr. Taeyong as possible. "The air filtration system will activate soon," Taeyong said calmly. "Please try to relax." "Relax?" Sunho's voice cracked. "Our suits are failing. Your human bacteria will kill us." Taeyong moved slowly to a storage cabinet. "I understand your fear, but panic won't help us." The station computer spoke overhead. "Full quarantine initiated. Duration, 72 hours. 3 days. Minji's silver eyes widened behind her cracked faceplate. "We cannot survive 3 days of exposure." Taeyong removed several sealed packages from the cabinet. "These are emergency decontamination kits. They'll help until we can repair your suits." Hyuk, the youngest Valerie, trembled visibly. "Our species has never made direct contact with aliens. Our bodies have no defenses." "That's not entirely true," Taeyong said, laying out the supplies. "Your biology has similarities to ours. I've studied your medical database since your ship entered our system." Sunho stared at him. "You accessed our database? How?" Taeyong smiled slightly. "Your communication signals weren't as secure as you thought. I was curious." With careful movements, Taeyong prepared a sanitized area. He laid out tools and compounds, mixing solutions with practiced hands. 5 years ago, Earth faced the Nova Plague, he explained while working. 2 billion people infected. I developed protocols that saved millions. The Valari watched silently as he created a temporary sealant for their suits. "This will hold until we can get you proper repairs," he said, offering the solution to Sunho. "Apply it to the tears in your suits." Sunho hesitated, then reached for the container. Their fingers almost touched. The captain pulled back sharply. "I cannot," he whispered. Taeyong nodded. "I understand. I'll place it here. You can take it when you're ready." Hours passed. The Valerie eventually applied the sealant. It wasn't perfect, but it reduced their exposure. Taeyong gave them space, working quietly at a terminal across the room. On the second day, Hyuk approached Taeyong cautiously. "What are you doing?" the young Valari asked. "Analyzing your biology," Taeyong replied without looking up. "Your immune system is fascinating, so different from ours, yet elegant." Hyuk moved closer, curiosity overcoming fear. "We have engineered our biology for generations. No disease has affected us for centuries." "That's impressive," Taeyong said, "but also dangerous. Without challenges, systems grow weak." Hyuk tilted his head. "Is that why humans seem so resilient?" Taeyong smiled. "Partly. We've learned to live with our environment, not against it. Some bacteria are harmful, but many are helpful. They're part of us." By the third day, the tension had eased. The Valari still kept their distance, but they no longer flinched when Taeyong moved. They watched as he continued his work, taking notes, checking monitors. "Why are you not afraid?" Minji finally asked. "Of contamination, of us, of this situation?" Taeyong looked up. "Fear doesn't solve problems. Understanding does." When Sunho developed a rash on his arm where his suit had, Taeyong created a remedy without being asked. He placed it nearby and stepped away. "This will reduce the inflammation," he explained. "Your body is just responding to new stimuli." Sunho applied the cream carefully. The relief was immediate. "How did you know?" "I've been studying your physiology," Taeyong said. "Your cells signal distress differently than ours, but the principle is the same." On the final evening, as they waited for quarantine to end, Taeyong shared his meal with them. Not their food, they still couldn't stomach the thought, but the experience. He explained each item, its origin, its purpose. Food isn't just fuel, he told them. It's connection, to the planet, to each other. When the doors finally unlocked, Commander Dong-hun rushed in with medical teams. He stopped, short at the sight before him, 3 Valari sitting near, not with but near Dr. Taeyong, listening as he spoke. Is everyone okay? Dong-hun asked, confused. Taeyong stood slowly. We're fine. The Valari have shown remarkable adaptability. Sunho rose as well. He looked at Taeyong for a long moment. Then he did something unprecedented. He extended his hand in the human gesture he had observed. Perhaps, the captain said quietly, we have more to learn about humans than we thought. The alarm blared through Outpost Delta, its high-pitched wail cutting through the relative calm that had settled after the quarantine. Dr. Taeyong was in the lab with Science Officer Hyuk, showing him Earth's diverse bacterial cultures when the lights switched to flashing red. Emergency in Sector 7, the computer announced. Biological containment breach. Oxygen levels dropping. Taeyong's face went pale. Sector 7 houses our experimental algae research. Hyuk stepped back. What does this mean? It means we're in trouble, Taeyong said, already moving toward the door. The experimental algae consumes oxygen at an extraordinary rate. If it's loose in the station, they rushed to the command center. Commander Dong-hun stood before the monitors. His face, grim. Captain Sunho and First Officer Minji had joined him, standing at a careful distance. Status report, Taeyong demanded. The cooling system failed in Lab 7, Dong-hun explained. The algae sample overheated and expanded. It's spreading through the ventilation system. On the screens, they could see the green substance creeping through air ducts. Oxygen level warnings flashed across every sector. We have less than 6 hours before breathing becomes difficult, Dong-hun said. Evacuation ships are preparing, but they won't arrive for 8 hours. Sunho stepped forward. We will return to our vessel. You should abandon the station. We can't, Taeyong said firmly. There are 27 people here. The escape pods only hold 12. And if that algae reaches the outside atmosphere, it could spread. Minji looked alarmed. You mean it could contaminate our ship too? Taeyong nodded slowly. Possibly. It's designed to survive in harsh conditions. Sunho consulted with his crew in their language, then turned back. We will seal our ship completely and depart immediately. Wait, Taeyong said. Before you go, I need access to your biological database again. Your species has developed compounds that might help neutralize this threat. Sunho hesitated. Our knowledge is not for sharing. People will die, Taeyong said simply. After a long moment, Sunho nodded. Access granted. But we must leave now. As the Valari departed, Taeyong turned to the problem at hand. He moved to the main lab, downloading the Valari data as he worked. The station crew scrambled around him, preparing for possible evacuation. I'm staying, Taeyong announced to Dong-hun. I need to create a counter-agent. That's suicide, the commander argued. The algae will reach this section in 3 hours. Then, I have 3 hours to work, Taeyong replied. He dove into his research, combining earth science with Valari biochemistry. His hands moved quickly, mixing compounds, testing reactions. When the protective gloves proved too cumbersome for the delicate work, he removed them despite the risk to his skin. 2 hours later, the station was nearly empty. Only Taeyong and a few volunteers remained. The air was growing thin. The algae had spread faster than predicted. In the lab, Taeyong's hands were red and blistered from the chemicals. Sweat dripped into his eyes as he worked without stopping. He barely noticed when his fingers began to bleed from a dozen small cuts. Unknown to him, the Valari ship hadn't left. They watched through the station's cameras, observing as this human worked tirelessly to save others. He will kill himself, Minji said softly. Hyuk nodded. For others, without hesitation, Sunho watched in silence. Taeyong finally created a promising compound. He tested it on a sample of the algae, watching as the green mass shriveled and died. Success. But delivering it through the station would be another challenge. The ventilation system was compromised. Someone would need to manually release the agent at multiple points. Without pausing to rest, Taeyong loaded the counteragent into portable dispensers. His vision blurred from oxygen deprivation as he moved through the station, releasing the compound at each junction point. The Valari watched as he stumbled, fell, rose again, and continued. Blood smeared the walls where he braced himself. "Remarkable," Sunho whispered. When Taeyong reached the final release point, he could barely stand. His hands shook as he activated the dispenser. The counteragent spread through the air like a fine mist. Wherever it touched, the algae withered. He slumped against the wall, chest heaving as he struggled to breathe. The station computer announced, "Oxygen levels stabilizing." Taeyong smiled weakly. He had done it. The station was safe. The evacuation ships would arrive to find everyone alive. As darkness crept into his vision, he saw the door open. 3 white, environmental suits stepped through. "You came back," he whispered. "Yes," Sunho said, kneeling beside him. "We decided some things are more important than staying clean." Dr. Taeyong opened his eyes slowly. The ceiling above him was unfamiliar, smooth white material that seemed to glow softly. He tried to sit up but found his body too weak. His hands were wrapped in clean bandages. "Stay still," a gentle voice said. "Your body needs rest." Taeyong turned his head to see a Valari standing nearby. Unlike before, she wore only a thin mask over her face, not a full environmental suit. Her skin was pale blue, almost luminescent. Large silver eyes watched him carefully. "My name is Yuna," she said. "I am the medical officer for the Valari delegation." "Where am I?" Taeyong's voice was rough. "On our ship. You were very ill after exposure to the algae and its counteragent. Your lungs were damaged. Your hands." She gestured to his bandaged hands. "The chemicals burned your skin badly." Taeyong remembered the station, the spreading algae, his desperate work to stop it. "The others? The station?" "Safe," Yuna assured him. "Your solution worked. The algae is gone. The humans have returned to the station." Taeyong relaxed slightly. Then he realized something extraordinary. He was on an alien ship. No human had ever been aboard a Valari vessel before. "Why am I here?" he asked. Yuna moved closer, checking the monitors beside his bed. "Your condition was too severe for your medical facilities. Captain Sunho ordered you brought here." Taeyong was surprised. "I thought Valari avoided physical contact with other species." "We do," Yuna said simply. "It is our most sacred rule. But rules can be broken when necessary." She hesitated, then continued. "I performed the treatment myself. It required direct contact with your body. This has never happened before in our history." Taeyong understood the significance. "Thank you." Yuna tilted her head. "Why did you risk your life? You could have left with the others." "It's my job to protect people," Taeyong said. "No," Yuna replied. "Your job is research. You chose to stay." Taeyong was silent for a moment. "When I was a child, I lived on Colony 7. It was a poor place. We had little medicine, little food. When a fever spread through our settlement, my parents and sister died. I survived because a doctor worked for days without rest to save as many as she could." Yuna listened intently as Taeyong continued. "I promised myself I would do the same for others if I ever had the chance," he said. "That's why I became a scientist, to help people. Even at the cost of your own safety?" "Sometimes that's necessary," Taeyong said simply. Over the next days, as Taeyong recovered, more Valari came to speak with him. Captain Sunho visited daily, no longer wearing his full suit. Science Officer Yuk brought questions about Earth biology. First Officer Minji brought recordings of Valari music. Taeyong noticed how they gradually moved closer each day, their fear of contamination slowly fading. He learned that the Valari had evolved on a world with few pathogens. Their bodies had never developed strong immune responses. For thousands of years, they had avoided all contact with other life forms. "We thought this made us superior," Sunho admitted one evening. "We saw your bacteria, your sweat, your constant shedding of skin cells as primitive, disgusting. And now?" Taeyong asked. "Now we see it differently. Your bodies constantly fight and adapt. They are resilient in ways ours are not." Sunho paused. What we saw as filth was actually strength. On the 7th day, Yuna removed Taeyong's bandages. His hands were healed with only faint scars remaining. "Our medicine is quite advanced," she said with subtle pride. "Thank you," Taeyong said. He hesitated, then asked, "Was it difficult for you to touch me?" Yuna was quiet for a long moment. "Yes, I was afraid, but then I saw your hands, how you had damaged them to save others. I decided some barriers are meant to be broken." She reached out slowly and placed her blue hand against his. The first intentional touch between their species. "Sometimes," she said softly, "we must be brave to learn new things." 6 months passed since Dr. Taeyong's recovery aboard the Valari ship. His experience had changed both him and the aliens who once viewed humans with disgust. Today, he stood before the communication screen in Outpost Delta, listening to an urgent message from Valari Space. "The situation is critical." Captain Sunho's voice came through clearly. His silver eyes showed genuine concern. "The colony on Valar Prime is suffering from an unknown pathogen. 40% of the population is ill." Taeyong frowned. "Your medical technology is far more advanced than ours. How can I help?" "The pathogen adapts quickly to our treatments," Sunho explained. "Our bodies have no natural defenses against such rapid mutations. We need a different perspective." Taeyong understood what wasn't being said. The Valari needed human help, specifically his experience with unpredictable diseases. "I'll come immediately," he said. 3 days later, Taeyong arrived at Valar Prime. The Valari colony was beautiful. Crystal structures rising from the purple soil, everything arranged in perfect geometric patterns. But now, those perfect streets were quiet. The hospital was full. Yuna met him at the landing pad. In the months since they'd last seen each other, she had studied human medicine extensively. She no longer wore any protective gear around him. "Thank you for coming," she said, touching his arm lightly. Such contact was still rare between their species, but no longer forbidden. In the medical center, Taeyong worked side by side with Valari doctors. He noticed immediately what they had overlooked. "You're fighting this like it's a disease," he told them. "But it's not attacking like one. It's acting more like a symbiotic organism gone wrong." The Valari doctors looked confused. Yuna explained, "Our bodies don't form symbiotic relationships with other organisms. The concept is foreign to us." "That's both your strength and weakness," Taeyong said. "You've engineered perfect systems, but they can't adapt to new relationships." Working through the night, Taeyong developed a new approach. Instead of killing the pathogen, his treatment would modify it, teaching the Valari bodies to live with it in balance. The High Council was skeptical. "Live with a foreign organism? Deliberately?" one elder asked in horror. "Yes," Taeyong said firmly. "This is how humans have survived for thousands of years. We adapt. We find balance." After much debate, they approved his treatment. Within days, the sick began to recover. The modified pathogen remained in their systems, but no longer caused harm. Instead, it strengthened their immune responses. 1 month later, Taeyong stood before the Valari High Council in their grand chamber. Captain Sunho and Yuna stood beside him. "The Valari have always believed in purity," the head counselor began. "We separated ourselves from other life forms, thinking this made us superior. Dr. Taeyong has shown us the error in our thinking." The room was silent as the counselor continued. "Today, we formally acknowledge that our assessment of humanity was flawed. True civilization is not measured by physical traits or environmental preferences, but by compassion, adaptation, and the willingness to help others despite differences. The counselor raised his blue hand. We hereby establish the first interspecies alliance between Valari and humans, and we appoint Dr. Taeyong as the first human ambassador to our worlds. Applause filled the chamber. Taeyong bowed his head, humbled by the honor. Later, at the celebration, Yuna found him standing alone on a balcony looking up at the stars. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "About how first impressions can be wrong," he replied. "You thought we were dirty animals. We thought you were cold and arrogant." Yuna smiled. "And now?" "Now I think we're just different species finding our way in the same universe." Yuna looked at his scarred hands, remembering how he had sacrificed his own safety for others. "The council has approved my research project," she said. "A medical exchange program. Valari doctors will study human immune responses, and human doctors will learn our techniques." "A perfect symbiosis," Taeyong said with a smile. As they turned to rejoin the celebration, a small Valari child approached. Without hesitation, she reached for Taeyong's hand. He knelt down to her level. "Are you really from Earth?" she asked. "Yes, I am. My parent says humans and Valari can be friends now. Is that true?" Taeyong looked up at Yuna, then back to the child. "Yes, we're different in many ways, but in the ways that matter most, we're very much alike." The child smiled and ran back to her parents. Taeyong stood and faced the gathering of humans and Valari, together in one room without fear or disgust. "Perhaps," he said softly, "this is just the beginning."